So I'll start with the introduction of the event and then I'll introduce the guest सबैजनाको लागि अनि सो आजको इभेन्ट चाहिँ इट्स पार्ट अफ इन्स्पायर टक्स नेपाल इनिसिएटिभ होइन इन्स्पायर टक्स नेपाल भनेर चाहिँ त्यसमा चाहिँ हामी टेकसँग रिलेटेड डिफ्रेन्ट कन्भर्सेसन्सहरू गर्छौँ है अनि भनौँ न नेपालको डिफ्रेन्ट इन्डस्ट्रीको मा काम गरिराख्नु भएको चाहिँ मान्छेहरूसँग चाहिँ हुन्छ नि त्यो इन्डस्ट्रीको बारेमा अनि कुनै पनि टेकको बारेमा चाहिँ त्यसको अराउन्डमा कन्भर्सेसन्सहरू गर्ने प्रयास गरिरहेको हुन्छौँ हामी अनि आजको सेसन इज स्पेसल किनभने हामी चाहिँ योभन्दा अगाडि चाहिँ इन्स्पायर टक्समा चाहिँ नेपालभित्रकै डिफ्रेन्ट इन्डस्ट्रीको मान्छेहरूसँग कुरा गरिरहेको हुन्थ्यौँ भने हामी अब चाहिँ हुन्छ नि हाम्रो डायस्पोरामा पनि एकदमै धेरैजना त्यस्तो मान्छेहरू हुन्छ जसले चाहिँ धेरै राम्रो कामहरू गरिरहनु भएको छ बिग कम्पनीजहरूमा हुनुहुन्छ होइन स्टार्टअप्सहरू गरिराख्नु भएको छ सो धेरै कुराहरू चाहिँ हामीले लर्न गर्न सक्छौँ उहाँहरूबाट अझ धेरै भन्ने हिसाबले चाहिँ उहाँहरूलाई पनि हामीले कनेक्ट गर्नुपर्छ उहाँहरूबाट पनि लर्न गर्नुपर्छ मेबी केही कोलाबोरेसनको लागि केही अपर्च्युनिटिज हुन्छ भने त्यो पनि एटलिस्ट नेपालमा कसैले काम गर्न खोजिरहेको मान्छेहरूको लागि चाहिँ अनलक गर्नुपर्छ भन्ने हिसाबले चाहिँ यो इनिसिएटिभ लिएको हो सो अनि त्यसकै पार्ट हो अनि यसमा चाहिँ हामी दुईवटा यो कनेक्टेड छ होइन इन्स्पायर टक्स नेपाल र अर्को चाहिँ नेपाल आइटी हन्ट भनेर पनि हामीले अर्को इनिसिएटिभ लिएर छौँ जहाँ चाहिँ नेपालको आइटी इकोसिस्टमलाई चाहिँ सोकेस गराउनको लागि बाहिरको लागि किनभने अपर्च्युनिटिजहरू नेपालको स्पेसमा चाहिँ कस्तो छ भन्दा धेरै जस्तो आइटीसँग रिलेटेड कामहरू चाहिँ बाहिरबाट आइरहेको हुन्छ हाम्रो होइन त्यो हिसाबले चाहिँ हुन्छ नि हाम्रो तर एउटा युनिफाइड सोकेस गर्ने प्लेटफर्महरू चाहिँ नेपालको केसमा छैन त्यो हिसाबले चाहिँ नेपालको कम्पनीज नेपालको प्रडक्टहरूको चाहिँ एउटा सोकेस जस्तो बनाउन मिल्छ गर्न मिल्छ एक ठाउँमा लिएर आएर भनेर चाहिँ नेपाल आइटी हन्ट भनेर त्यो इनिसिएटिभ पनि छ अनि यो इन्स्पायर टक्स नेपालको यो डायस्पोरा एडिसन भनेर हामीले स्टार्ट गरेका छौँ यो चाहिँ कम्बाइन्ड इनिसिएटिभ जस्तो दुइटैको होइन सो हामीले त्यसरी स्टार्ट गरेका छौँ अनि यसको हाम्रो प्रिमियर एपिसोडमा चाहिँ आज प्रभात दाई हुनुहुन्छ होइन थ्याङ्क यू सो मच दाई फर जोइनिङ इन है एकदमै धेरै लर्न गर्ने एक्सपेक्टेसन्स छ क्या मलाई हजुरबाट होइन हजुरको जर्नी चाहिँ इन्ट्रेस्टिङ एन्ड भेरी इन्सपायरिङ त्यस्तो सिराको एउटा गाउँबाट स्टार्ट गरेर होइन
म्युट भएको छैन कि जस्तो लाग्यो
हजुर कसैको माइक अन हो
ठीक छ
ओके
वी क्यान कन्टिन्यू
ओके सो त्यही म दाईको जर्नीको बारेमा भन्दै थिएँ होइन इन सर्ट मलाई थाहा भएको भन्छु देन दाईबाटै सुनाउला अरू फर्दर चाहिँ होइन त्यो सिराको एउटा त्यो पढिरहेको थिएँ होइन सर्लाहीबाट त्यो बत्ती पनि नभएको ठाउँबाट जर्नी स्टार्ट गरेर चाहिँ होइन एन्ड देन यु मुभ टु युएस एन्ड देन यु वर्क विथ बिग कम्पनीज लाइक रेड ह्याट करियरको स्टार्टमै एन्ड देन फाउन्डेड स्टार्टअप्स त्यसको मल्टिपल एक्विजिसन्सहरू हुँदै एन्ड देन नाउ युर इन आइबिएममा चाहिँ डेटास्ट्याक्सको एक्विजिसन पछि चाहिँ दाइले चाहिँ त्यहाँको नोसिक्वल डेटाबेसेसको हेड अफ इन्जिनियरिङको रूपमा आइबिएममा अहिले इन्भल्भ हुनुहुन्छ होइन सो गिभन द एक्सपिरियन्स दाइको सबै अहिलेसम्मको होइन वी विल टक अबाउट प्रडक्ट इन्जिनियरिङ स्केलिङ स्टार्टअप्स एन्ड देन एक्विजिसन्स त्यो छ अनि दाइको अर्को चाहिँ हामीले मिस गर्न नहुने कुरा चाहिँ दाइ चाहिँ नन प्रफिट सेक्टरमा पनि हुनुहुन्छ होइन दाइको इजोत भन्ने एउटा इनिसिएटिभ छ जसले चाहिँ नेपालमै काम गर्छ कम्प्युटर लिटरेसीमा होइन दाइ सो हजुर त्यो पनि छ अनि सो बिफोर वी गेट इन्टु द एक्चुअल टपिक दाइ सबैजनाको लागि चाहिँ होइन जस्ट लेट अस नो वेयर यु आर जोइनिङ अस फ्रम टुडे and what is the one thing that you are missing about Nepal right now?
Well, first, very, very good to be here, and it's always an honor to be the first guest for this new series. Hopefully it only gets better from here. My name is Prabhat Jha. Right now, I am in San Jose, California. So it's 9:23 p.m. Saturday night for me, and it's a Sunday morning for you all. This is almost bedtime, but I think I'm very excited about this one. So the sleep can wait.
Thank you, Dai.
And so yeah, it's good. I always miss Nepal. Most of my family member are still in Nepal. My mom is there, my grandparents are there, my brothers are there. So I miss my family every day. At this point in time, given all this happening with elections and everything, I think it must be fun to be there and kind of understand what's going on in Nepal. I think it's a very important um, point as a country. I think the big
Oh,
change is expected, and
right.
I'm hoping that people are really looking forward
Mm-hmm.
and they vote for candidates who can really change the country. Because
Right.
going back to last 20 years is not going to change the country.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really hoping for that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, दाइ. सो आई नो होइन हजुरले अब डिफ्रेन्ट बिग कम्पनीजहरूमा काम गर्नुभएको छ, एकदमै ठुलो इफिसियन्ट इन्जिनियरिङ टिम्सहरूलाई पनि लिड गर्नुभएको छ, स्टार्टअप्सहरू फाउन्ड गर्नुभएको छ, मल्टिपल टाइम्स स्टार्टअप्सहरूको एक्विजिसनको थ्रुबाट पनि जानुभएको छ होइन.
Yeah.
सो वी वन्ट टु नो हजुरको त्यो हुन्छ नि करियरको जर्नी कस्तो थियो इन सर्ट होइन, राइट फ्रम वेन यु स्टार्टेड युर स्कुलिङदेखि लिएर अहिलेसम्म आउँदाखेरि चाहिँ वाट डज युर करियर जर्नी लुक लाइक इन टर्म्स अफ टाइम लाइन एन्ड हाउ यु सिफ्टेड थ्रु
Yeah.
युर करियर.
Yeah, no, sure. म चाहिँ सर्लाही जिल्लामा जन्मेको. So it was I did my SLC, SLC from Sarlai itself, and as you said, Sanjay ji, like most of the villages back in 1980s, a lot of villages did not have electricity, and my village was just like that. So but still it was. SLC Gario, I did fairly well by the village standard, and it just like many people from different parts of Nepal. I came to Kathmandu for my ISC back then. Plus 212 को चलन थिएन त्यति बेला. Still ISC. I think I was the last batch of ISC. Then everything became plus 2 after that. So I was at Siddharth Vanasthali for my ISC. त्यति बेला गाउँबाट काठमाडौँ आएको थियो. It was a big change for me personally. It's Tarai culture, language is different than what you have in Kathmandu. So it took a little bit of time getting used to everything. So I did my ISC त्यति बेला, and just like most of us, you either become doctor or engineer kind of expectation from family as well. सुरुमा चाहिँ डक्टर बन्ने थियो because my father was a doctor.
Okay.
But things didn't work out that well on that line, and त्यसपछि somehow through family support we said maybe I should come to the United States and study computer science. किनकि त्यति बेला कम्प्युटर चाहिँ नयाँ नयाँ नै आयो थियो, कम्प्युटर साइन्सको चाहिँ एकदमै क्रेज भएको थियो, इन्टरनेट आएको थियो and all this stuff. So my uncles thought should come here and study computer science. And त्यति बेला चाहिँ of course you take the exams like SAT, TOEFL exam दियो. I took those. I did reasonably well. त्यसमा अनि मैले scholarship आएको थिएँ to come to the States. Otherwise it would have been very expensive to come over here, like as you can tell. अनि त्यसपछि so through scholarship I was in West Virginia for my undergrad, bachelor's of engineering. म चाहिँ double major थिएँ. I did computer science and mathematics, both of them. अनि त्यसपछि त्यो college चाहिँ त्यस्तो राम्रो थिएन. It was a decent college but not great college. I always wanted to go to a really good college actually for my masters. अनि त्यति बेला मैले I was so confident about myself that I applied to MITs, Harvard, Stanfords of the world. That was too much. I realized it. त्यहाँ त भएन, but I ended up going to University of Texas at Austin for my master's. So that was ranked number 4th in the whole United States. So there was Stanford, Stanford, MIT, Carnegie Mellon, and UT Austin. So it was still pretty well ranked university. And त्यसमा मैले master's गरेँ, and then just like that I ended up working at Red Hat for my first job. So initial journey चाहिँ त्यही थियो. And then Red Hat, after I worked there for 5 years, just like a bunch of any immigrant, green card कति हुन्छ, because then you become stable. You don't have to worry about visa extension and things like that. किनभने जबसम्म ग्रीन कार्ड हुँदैन तबसम्म if you're not employed, then you are not legally allowed to stay in the country. You know, so you're tied to your employer. So you go through the process. When I got the green card, and like every startup, every immigrant who come here and people hear about startup, you know, you also want to do your startup one day. And that was always in back of my mind that maybe one day stars will align and I will end up doing that. तर guts, you know, हिम्मत हुँदैन. It's a very, very big leap, you know, to leave a very comfortable, high-paying job, to take something from start something from scratch, it needs a lot of courage, especially if you're not single. त्यति बेला I gotten married, you know, I even had a very my first daughter and stuff like that, right? So that's when I basically decided to do the startup at that point in time.
एकदम स्केरी पनि हुन्छ नि त होइन, जस्तो एउटा कम्फर्टेबल फेरि नेपालमा होइन होइन युएस जस्तो कन्ट्रीमा हुनुहुन्छ, त्यो घरको कम्फर्ट पनि छैन नि त त्यहाँ त. सो त्यो एउटा कम्फर्टमा भएको जब छोडेर चाहिँ स्टार्टअप गर्नु वाज एक्चुअली इट वाज अ बिग रिस्क होइन दाइ?
It was a big risk. मलाई पनि रिस्क तर like you can imagine the family, right? Family also just to, like, how do you convince your mom,
right,
like that you're gonna leave your very comfortable job to do this startup? How would you convince my wife in that case? But my wife has been very supportive all along, so that makes it easy. So finish the journey, and त्यसपछि हामी will go through the startup and acquisition. So that was the thing, like, you know, do I really leave? Do I have it in me to leave a very you know, good job and take this risk, you know? And त्यो चाहिँ it's a little bit about you, but then impact of, you know, impact of that decision is not only on you, it's on your family as well, and that's what makes it more complicated. But then you take a leap of faith and you basically have that very frank conversation with your family that this is going to be risky, and you would need their support, because without family support you cannot do the किनकि म त्यति बेला started गर्दाखेरि I remember my days was the minimum number of hours that I had to work was 16 to 18 hours a day. Because you are just on your own, you know, writing code to, you know, fundraising and all this stuff. Sabai कुरा भइरहेको हुन्छ, and there's no one else to do actually. So yeah.
Okay. अनि त्यो भन्नाले त्यो सिफ्ट गर्नलाई चाहिँ के त्यस्तो त्यो ट्रिगर गर्ने केही पोइन्ट थियो र दाइ? जस्तो अब त्यो काम गरिराख्दाखेरि होइन, अब चाहिँ स्टार्टअप गर्नुपर्छ भन्ने जुन मोमेन्ट थियो नि, त्यो चाहिँ केही कुराले ट्रिगर गरेको थियो कि त्यो इट वाज अलवेज इन योर माइन्ड, अनि मेबी वान डे यु डिसाइडेड द्याट आइल जस्ट डु माई ओन थिङ?
So the first thing that, so एउटा इच्छा as a dream was always there in me to do the startup of my own. And त्यति बेला चाहिँ, you know, Silicon Valley को startup acquisition, यस्तो fundraising, $1 million fundraising गरेछ, wow, कस्तो smart होला, and they're able to do that. When it's that maybe one day I'll do. So part of it was a dream. Second part, what worked in me, ki I ended up finding a friend who was working at Dell and Amazon at that time, and he and I happened to meet through mutual friend, and he had the similar kind of aspiration to do a startup. And when we met together, we just clicked that okay, we should do something. And so then the question becomes, what is the problem you're going to solve? You know. त्यति बेला it was my also first startup, so I did not know lots of things, like what is like how do you decide what is the problem you're going to solve and do, you know. So the we thought of many things, but what really worked for our first startup, हामीले जुन बेला काम गरिरहेको थियो नि, that was all like the applications you're mostly building was like web application, you know, just the PHP, MySQL, WordPress, just the application बनाउँथ्यो, you know.
कुन इयर को कुरा थियो दाइ? हजुर, कुन इयर थियो यो चाहिँ?
That was 2011.
11 okay
So 2011 मा चाहिँ त्यति बेला म काम गरिरहेको छु. In 2011 website, most of the web application development को धेरै बढी थियो, using WordPress, Joomla, all those technologies, or like Angular JS त्यति बेला नयाँ नयाँ आएको थियो, त्यस्तो थियो हैन. So and on the website मा a lot of like application that you write on the server side and you consume using web browser like Netscape and Internet Explorer, those kind of things, Google Chrome हैन. अनि iOS चाहिँ Apple iPhone आइसकेको थियो, Android had come out, was there हैन. अनि the aha moment I have, my friend, my co-founder and I had was that the more and more applications will be built for mobile application, I know. So, but what we realized that the quality expectation that end users will have when they're using the application, mobile application on their mobile devices, will be very similar to the quality expectation you have for the website. You know, nobody wants to, whether you're using mobile phone or whether you are using a browser, you want the application to be faster, you want to be snappy, you don't want to crash. You know, there are a lot of the tooling that existed back then to track the performance of website. There was lots of there. There was Google Analytics. There are lots of those products, and both on the client side and server side to track end-to-end performance. But there are not many things for mobile apps. So hamro that's the gap we can fill. So that was the technology gap we had identified. Second thing was that we had a very strong server side application. We knew how to optimize Java-based applications, how to optimize databases. We had a lot of like performance engineering background. So we said we can apply that experience to do the performance engineering for mobile application. You know? So what worked for us was there was a gap we identified, was a very early mobile ecosystem grow bhairahyo थियो. And then the other part was we thought we had the skills that we could transfer from server side to application performance monitoring to the mobile application performance monitoring. And that was our insight.
Okay. यो यसमा चाहिँ अझै हामी पछाडि आउँछौँ दाइ हैन, हाउ यु बिल्ड द्याट होल कम्पनी एन्ड त्यो कम्पनीलाई चाहिँ कसरी एक्विजिसनको लागि रेडी बनाउनु भयो भन्ने कुरामा. बट थोरै चाहिँ अलिकति टेक्निकल कुरा पनि गरौँ हैन, किनभने जस्तो हाम्रो धेरै सुन्ने मान्छेहरू अडियन्सेसहरूमा चाहिँ टेक्निकल ब्याकग्राउन्डमा हुनुहुन्छ हैन. अनि अब झन् आजको दिनमा त धेरैजनाको एस्पिरेसन्स चाहिँ दे वान्ट टु बिल्ड अ प्रडक्ट, किनभने प्रडक्ट डेभलपमेन्ट कम्पेरिटिभली इजी भएको छ इन टर्म्स अफ हाउ एआई बेस्ड कोडिङ इज डेभलपिङ हैन. त्यो हिसाबले चाहिँ सबैको एस्पिरेसन्स चाहिँ के प्रडक्ट बनाऊँ हैन, एउटा स्केल गर्न सक्ने प्रडक्ट बनाऊँ भन्ने तरिकाको एस्पिरेसन्सहरू पनि छ. सो कुनै पनि प्रडक्ट मैले बनाउन स्टार्ट गरेँ, कसैले पनि बनाउन स्टार्ट गर्यो भने चाहिँ डे वानबाट, किनभने हामी अब एउटा चाहिँ मार्केटमा हुन्छ नि कतिको चाँडो हामीले कुनै पनि प्रडक्टलाई लिएर जान्छौँ भन्ने कुरा पनि हुन्छ. अर्को चाहिँ त्यो कतिको स्केलेबल छ त लङ टर्ममा, इफ अडप्ट नै भयो मार्केटमा भन्ने कुराहरू पनि हुन्छ हैन. सो प्रडक्ट बनाउन स्टार्ट गर्दाखेरि डे वानदेखि नै इफ तपाईँले स्टार्ट गर्नुभयो भने चाहिँ के कस्तो एस्पेक्टहरूलाई चाहिँ यु ओभर इन्जिनियर डे वानदेखि नै हैन, किनभने यो चाहिँ हामीलाई डे वानदेखि नै वी सुड मेक दिस राइट भन्ने हुन्छ नि त, त्यो एउटा. अनि के कुरालाई चाहिँ यु क्यान इग्नोर अर पोस्टपोन फर लेटर, त्यो चाहिँ कसरी हेर्नुहुन्छ दाइ त्यो कुनै पनि प्रडक्ट बनाउँदा?
सो कुनै नयाँ प्रडक्ट बनाउनु भयो भने इन्जिनियरिङ एक्चुअली कम्स सेकेन्ड. तपाईँले जुन क्वेसन गर्नु भने लाइक what do you think about scaling and all this stuff, त्यो चाहिँ अलिकति पछि आउँछ. सो त्योभन्दा पहिला चाहिँ आर यु द राइट पर्सन टु सल्भ एनी प्रब्लम, त्यो आयो कि. अनि वाइ आर यु द बेस्ट पर्सन टु सल्भ द प्रब्लम हैन. कुनै पनि कुरालाई, वेदर यु आर बिल्डिङ e-commerce एप्लिकेसन या मोबाइल पेमेन्ट एप्लिकेसन or ride sharing anything, are you the right person to solve the problem? So let's take a step back. Why would anyone want to do a startup when it's so risky, right? If your motivation is to, I hear in the news will a startup garyo and he was able to sell it, acquisition भयो, just a meri story little, and that's what's exciting, right? Then it's not going to work. Like even in my case, it was not that we knew that startup ma ke huncha bhane 90% of startups fail.
Right.
You know that regardless of how good you are, 90% of startups are going to fail. So then what is in it? Puri benefit, if you all money, then if 90% failure rates, it doesn't make sense for you to invest your time. So there has to be more than that you are willing to give it to you, right? To thank you, some either you have identified with a problem really well, you have gone through that pain of not having solved that problem, and that's why you understand how to solve the problem. Then you can build a product. Because you know you have understood the problem very deeply. So त्यो हुनु पर्यो हैन. And second कुरा के भन्यो भने you need to tell yourself that it's not going to be a quick win. You are not going to make a very solid business just because you have an idea and you are the right person, and all of a sudden if you build a product, people will start paying for it. त्यो चाहिँ हुँदैन. Like it takes a lot of grind, हैन. So before you think about scaling technology wise, त्यो चाहिँ गर्नु पर्यो हैन. Now हाम्रो केसमा let's take a very concrete example. हामीले भने okay iOS छ, एन्ड्रोइड छ त्यति बेला, अहिले पनि छ, अनि we want to build a client SDK that other mobile app developer can use to attract the performance. Now some apps are used by 100 people, like if you have a very small app, things going to use 100 people. But if you have a bigger apps like Facebook, they're used by billions of people. So if I'm building as a startup guy, if I'm building that application, do I build for 100 people or do I build for billion people? Obviously, there's no way you can build for billion people because you don't have enough people, you don't have enough money and things like that. So you wanna say what is the problem I'm trying to solve? We knew we are not building for Facebook kind of a scale, Facebook or Twitter kind of scale. They will never use our product as a startup, right? But who would use our product? The people who care about the quality of application. Who are the people who care about application? Usually enterprise applications, just to B2B, B2C, testo bhayo. And then we said we're going to latch into the first potential 100 customers that if we build a product and if we're able to sell it, who would be the ideal 100 customers? And then so you build the architecture and engineering solution for that scale, not more, not less. If you think very small, if you just bring 1 or 2 customers, then after that, you are always going to be firefighting. So you have to be little bit ahead of what your first couple of customers are going to be, but not too far ahead. As I said, startup is very risky. So you don't want to invest your time, your money on building something and building for a customer base that you may never get. No. Right? So to answer your question, you want to go somewhere not too small, think big enough that you have cushion to onboard more customers. So in case we knew we're probably gonna get customers that have like 10,000 to 50,000 user bases. So what is the database we're gonna use? How are the traffic, how are the metrics from the mobile application will come to us if the 10,000 people use our product at the same time. Then I'm doing dashboard banaya thiye. How many people will be able to query those dashboard? What is the latency requirement? What is the throughput requirement? But we are never thinking for millions of users using at the time because we knew we didn't have that problem. So that's how
initial idea चाहिँ हामीलाई हुन पर्छ, लाइक यति जति युजर्सहरु चाहिँ हाम्रो हुन सक्छ. सो भनौं न we always start with one user तर पनि we should get ready for that 1000 number भन्ने त सुरुदेखि नै हामीसँग एउटा आइडिया चाहिँ हुन पर्यो. एन्ड देन आफ्टर द्याट पनि मैले सोध्न खोजेको चाहिँ व्हाट इफ त्यो प्रडक्ट चाहिँ हामीले 1000 को लागि रेडी गरेको थियौं एन्ड देन यु रियलाइज दैट दिस प्रडक्ट विल ह्याभ another 100,000 users in the next 1 year, then what do you do? त्यो अब फेरि किनभने इनिशियली इन्जिनियरिङमा त we are just thinking about 1000 users हैन. तर अब if 100,000 पुग्नेवाला छ भने चाहिँ do you redo everything or is there something that you can do at like right at the beginning? म 1000 को लागि मात्रै बनाइरहेको छु तर if this takes off and like gets to 100,000 then still आर्किटेक्चर त्यो जुन हुन्छ नि इनिसियल इन्जिनियरिङ थर्ड प्रोसेस चाहिँ स्टिल रिलेभेन्ट छ भनेर इन्स्योर गर्न सकिन्छ कि यु जस्ट इन्जिनियर इट अगेन?
No, no, that's a very good question. So you have to think about the layers. So कुनै पनि तपाईले application बनायो भने it is either going to be consumed through web application, web app or mobile app, हैन? And so there's a view layer. So you have a, in website you have a React based, Angular based kind of त्यो technology भयो. Or mobile मा iOS app बनाउनु भयो, Android app बनायो, all those like Flutter and all those kind of frameworks that exist out there, हैन? So but त्यो चाहिँ change हुन्छ. But what happens is abstractions is all of these need an API to talk to your backend, and that API ultimately needs to query the data, and that you need in the database, you know. So you want to have be API first right from the beginning. तपाईं कहिले पनि you never want to tie your database directly to your application. That is just disaster to failure. So उता abstraction त्यो भयो. Now as these days, there was much difficult back then, but these days to spin up an API, whether it's a Python Flask based, it's very quick, and you can always scale up that layer very, very quickly. What doesn't scale quickly is the database. I know. So the database is usually the thing, but आजकलको database, whether it's the Postgres or MySQL, तपाईले आफै use गर्नुभयो, या if you use the hosted one from like AWS, like RDS, these have enough scaling capabilities that if you make your app work for let's say 1,000 users, and if you're so fortunate that you have 100,000 users, actually you can solve that problem with the same infrastructure stack. I know. So these things are a little bit easier. हाम्रो टाइममा के थियो भने, even if when we're using in my case, I ended up using Amazon RDS as a database backed by MySQL. त्यति बेला चाहिँ scaling up and everything was very difficult back then. Like Amazon didn't have those capabilities. So we're doing that, all those database scaling, backward compatibility, migration, zero downtime migration, scaling, like all the stuff we're doing it ourselves. So back to the question, it's easier these days that you don't have to worry about that problem because you can scale the database vertically up, and your API layer you can horizontally scale up and down all the time. So that's not a problem these days actually.
Okay. अनि अर्को चाहिँ जस्तो स्पिड अल्सो म्याटर्स हैन भनेपछि हजुरको केसमा चाहिँ इफ मैले एउटा केही नयाँ प्रडक्टमा चाहिँ काम गर्न लागिरहेको छु भने हैन इनिशियल फेजमा त वी शुड जस्ट फोकस अन द स्पिड नै त होला हैन कि देन वी क्यान लाइक स्केल इज अलवेज सेकेन्डरी नै त भयो यो हिसाबले हामीले गर्ने हो भने त
आजकलको कालमा you don't have to worry about a scale because just a lot of at least cloud services ma use garnu bhayo bhane different up vertically and horizontally both ways. So yeah.
अनि के रे अर्को चाहिँ मलाई इन्ट्रेस्टिङ हजुरकोबाट त्यो बुझ्न मन लागेको चाहिँ त्यो हजुरले डेटा स्ट्याक्समा काम गर्दाखेरि पनि युआर लिडिङ इन्जिनियरिङ टिम देयर हैन अनि आई रिमेम्बर त्यहाँ पनि भेक्टर डेटाबेसेसहरू थियो एन्ड त्यो भेक्टर डेटाबेस भनौँ न एलएलएम रेडी डेटाबेसेसहरूको लागि चाहिँ हजुरहरूले काम गरेर राख्नु भएको थियो हैन त्यो त्यसको थोरै सेयर गर्न मिल्छ भने के फ्रम द इन्जिनियरिङ पर्सपेक्टिभ हाउ यु आर बिल्डिङ द्याट प्लेटफर्म एन्ड टेक्नोलोजी भनेर.
Sure. So त्यति in the vector search हामीले start implemented in 2023 मा just the OpenAI ले जब LLM आयो अनि they started using text search and stuff like that. हाम्रो database मा त्यो capability थिएन. So the database services that we provided before then and still provide is based on Apache Cassandra. Apache Cassandra is a NoSQL database where it's a very infinitely scalable database that you can just add nodes and data gets replicated. Do that. So that's why you have a SQL database like Postgres and MySQL, and you have NoSQL database like MongoDB, Apache Cassandra. So our stuff is based on Apache Cassandra. Now, when vector search ko demand aayo ni त्यति बेला, so we had to move really fast. किनभने OpenAI all of a sudden became very, very popular. Right. Everybody knows that. ChatGPT, people started building application using that. So So what happens? So what was the problem? It's always about what is the problem you're trying to solve, and is the problem worth solving? What we realize that people, when they're building especially RAG applications, जुन बनाइरहेको हुन्छ नि, so you need the contextual data to give it to the LLM so that you can form it to answer. Now when you have lots of data in your databases, before vector search, you query simply by like text search and things like that. अब चाहिँ with the chat GPT and natural language, you have to query the intent. What is the person trying to sort? Instead of find me a hotel in this location that has a 5-star rating, question people are going to ask is, I'm looking for a hotel that has this many facility, this kind of facilities. So it's a natural language to it, होइन? That's why we had to put the vector search capabilities in there. So हामीले त्यो बनाउँदाखेरि we didn't have the vector search experts in my engineering team. So I had to think, so I did like two-pronged approaches. One was to let a very small but sharp engineers who are able to learn fast. So I created a very small team of 3-4 engineers who can move really fast and just research what exists in the vector search as an algorithmic problem, and how can they quickly build a prototype so that we have something going for our customers. We can go to customers and say, look, here is our vector search solution. Here's a demo application we have built. That's why it worked. It gave us time. It gave me time to hire people who really know about vector search, right? So that this point in time, we were able to hire people from outside who had a PhD in machine learning and all the stuff. And then we were able to expand really quickly. Then these people could come and understand the research paper and implement the same algorithm in 2 days, while our existing engineers would have taken like a month or 2 months to take. But these guys, because they have been thinking about, they have done their PhDs in this one. So that was my approach. The hard part was convincing these PhD students to come work for your team. What do you like? So that's where you have to sell your vision, like why this is the right team, why I am the right leader for them to bank their career on. What is in it for them, right? And so I always value talent. I never promise them anything that I cannot give them. So when I hired them, I did not say that you become a millionaire. I told them that you're going to solve the vector search problem at the scale that you have never solved before. People use हाम्रो database when people use Netflix use garcha, that is used by millions and millions of developers. Our database is used by Uber of the world. All the banks in the world, like whether top banks, हाम्रो database use garcha. That means a scale is amazing. So if you are really a smart computer science student, you're going to get very excited about, oh my God, the piece of code that I'm going to write will be used by these kind of companies. So that's what I tapped into, like the challenge engineers to solve that problem for me. So there was two-pronged approach. One, to build a small team to experiment and do a startup kind of mode, and then use that time to hire the talents that you need. And aru garo ke bhanyo bhane, I'm here in Silicon Valley. The kind of talent I'm looking for is kind of talent Google is looking for, kind of talent Facebook is looking for. So how do you compete with those companies to hire and stuff? So it was an interesting experience, but we got it. We got it done. And हाम्रो चाहिँ last year in 2025, we were the top vector databases in the Gartner's category, actually.
Okay, interesting. So भनौँ न कुनै enterprise छ भने पनि there should be some sort of startup spirit within that organization.
Oh yeah, you have to. आजकलको AI changes are moving so fast. If you think that I'm going to take 6 months to solve a problem, is the word is gone. Everything is getting absolute in like a month here these days. It's very intense, actually.
Right. Okay, so थोरै एक्विजिसन्सको बारेमा पनि कुरा गरौँ होइन है, बिकज इट इज वान अफ दि एक्जिट प्लान्स फर लाइक एनी वान हु इज बिल्डिङ अ प्रडक्ट अर स्टार्टिङ अ कम्पनी, राइट? सो सबैजनाले त आइपिओ गरेर एक्जिट लिन त सक्दैन, एन्ड देन अर्को एउटा एकदमै भनौँ न राम्रो अप्रोच भनेको चाहिँ यु गेट अक्वायर्ड बाई सम बिग कम्पनीज, होइन. अनि सो जस्ट फर लाइक एनी वान हु इज लिसनिङ टु अस होइन, जस्तो हजुरको एक्विजिसनको एक्सपिरियन्सेसहरू पनि लाइक आई नो यु वेन्ट थ्रु द्याट एक्सपिरियन्स लाइक 3 times इन यर करियर होइन. त्यो सो त्यो एक्सपिरियन्स कस्तो थियो, वाट वेयर दोज प्रडक्ट्स, एउटा त हजुरले भनिसक्नु भयो फर्स्टको कुरा त होइन. अनि त्यस पछाडि त्यो हुन्छ नि लाइक के थियो त्यो प्रडक्टहरूमा जसले गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ त्यो बिग कम्पनीजले चाहिँ अक्वायर गर्यो क्या. किनभने बिग कम्पनीज आई नो लाइक दे हेभ like a big team, good people, talented people, होइन. They have like practically infinite budget to build some products, right? So के कुराले गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ त्यो हुन्छ नि प्रडक्टहरू चाहिँ अक्वायर भयो, लाइक वाट वेयर दोज प्रडक्ट्स?
Yeah, so there are two kinds of buyers of a startup. एउटा strategic buyer भन्छ अनि एउटा चाहिँ investment banker, just people who are just trying to make money out of it. So my first startup InstaOps ko case ma ke we had built mobile application performance monitoring that tracked the mobile application performance. How many products minimum viable product banaye, we were experimenting with local mobile app developers, hai na. And we came to the Silicon Valley to talk to the VCs to raise money. त्यो क्रममा चाहिँ we got introduced to a CEO of company called Apigee. Apigee चाहिँ API gatewayहरू बनाइरहेको थियो. अनि they have been thinking about building something that we had already built. होइन. And as you said, they had engineers who could build what we had built. हामीले दुईजनाले मिलेर बनाउन सक्यो भने they could also build it themselves. But the thing is that we had already built it. That means if they start building from now, it will take them at least 6 to 8 months to build it. Competition moves very fast with them, I know, if they can do it. So, but by acquiring us, they have the advantage that they are able to shorten the time to market almost by a year. I know, so that's an opportunity cost. I know. So what we did was we positioned our startup as an opportunity cost to Apigee, that if you acquire us, we'll be able to expedite your launch by a year, which gives you that competitive advantage. And then you get into what is the value of a startup. If I'm able to give you a competitive advantage and you're able to launch and 1 year earlier than you would have otherwise, you know, that's what happens. So these are strategic buyers. So for a startup, the best outcome is to go IPO. You know, you grow really big, you go to public market, you become Facebooks and Googles or Uber, Netflixes of the world. तर त्यो चाहिँ एकदमै rare हुन्छ हैन. The bigger chunk of it is the acquisition, when a bigger company, they like the technology, they like the talent you have, and more importantly, it allows them to compete faster and more aggressively in the market. Two changes. So as a startup, you look for those kind of a strategic buyer. And in InstaOps happened to be there. As I said, mobile competition there थियो, and they sense that we will allow them to compete and move a lot more faster. त हाम्रो pitch चाहिँ त्यो थियो. Yeah.
अनि भन्नाले इन्स्टाअप्सलाई एपिजीले अक्वायर गर्दाखेरिको त्यो भयो, एन्ड देन एपिजी अगेन गट अक्वायर्ड बाई गुगल होइन. Like it was a big acquisition actually. मैले त्यो
it was the same thing. Google ले किन अक्वायर गर्यो? Google already had a API gateway, उसको आफ्नै पनि product थियो हैन. तर हाम्रो किन we had more customers, we're moving faster, and we handled better scale of API management than Google did. हैन. So त्यो के भयो भने Google was able to inherit a lot of our Apigee's customer through acquisition. Of course, Google could acquire those customers, but it would take them 3-4 years. But by acquiring, all of a sudden you are inheriting a lot of very top enterprise customers, and that's what Google sees the value. So these are strategic acquisition that the big company would acquire because you give them certain edge. Not that they cannot do it, but they. Even bigger companies have a finite resources. They cannot work on 50 different things. They want to work on 10 different things, and they have money to invest on others, right? So you want to be there, pitching your product that if you buy us, we can do this for you. And in InstaOps was that we can help you compete faster. When Google bought Apigee, it was like you get the real enterprise presence that you don't have right now, and you're able to get all this amazing talent as well as customers to pitch wow. So if you can find the strategic value and the talent story, then it's an amazing acquisition story.
अर्को त हेर्ने भनेको त त्यो कम्पिटिसन पनि हेर्ने होला होइन, लाइक इफ त्यही स्पेसमा आफूले पनि सर्भिस दिइरहेको छ र अर्को कुनै सानो कम्पनी, आफूभन्दा सानो कम्पनी चाहिँ त्यो स्पेसमा आइरहेछ भने होइन, एउटा त त्यो कम्पिटिसनलाई नै किन्ने अपर्च्युनिटी पनि हो नि त उनीहरूको लागि त, अलङ विथ द्याट।
त्यो पनि हो, you have one less competition to deal with.
राइट, त्यही त। अनि लाइक त्यो अर्को चाहिँ जस्तो वुट्रिक्स को पनि एक्विजिसन, वुट्रिकको पनि होइन। सो त्यो चाहिँ के प्रडक्ट थियो एन्ड हाउ डिड इट गो?
So the InstaOps acquisition was amazing. Then the Apigee acquisition by Google was even better. So that was amazing. Wootric acquisition was not that good. So now coming back to the startup thing, right? So Wootric, हामीले बनाएको चाहिँ product चाहिँ survey भन्छ नि, customer survey, so customer satisfaction survey, how satisfied are you with this product? त्यस्तो चाहिँ, तर हामीले चाहिँ SaaS application को लागि बनाएको थियो. So if you are using just a Zoom ले हाम्रो product use गरेको थियो. So if you are using Zoom video conferencing at that time, it asked for you how satisfied are you with your call. That was powered by our technology from Wootric. तर Wootric के भने, there was a very competitive space. They were like, I don't know, there were like 20 plus startups solving the same problem. I know, and it was very competitive. We realized that we are not going to be able to create a lot of value. So then what I did was I focused on technologies. त्यति बेला चाहिँ natural language processing, AI चाहिँ त्यति चले थिएन. And we said, okay, what is the technology? What could we make Wootric really exciting to potential buyers? So at that point in time, we knew we are not going to compete well. So we had a list of potential buyers that could buy us, and what kind of a story we will tell to these buyers so that they will acquire. And for every buyer, we had a different story based on the gap we saw. So one of the InMoment, when InMoment bought Wootric, we saw that they had a similar product, but they didn't have the AI, the natural language processing capability that we had built. So we went on that with that messaging, and like, okay, if you get us, you can inherit our customer base like Zoom and this kind of very high profile customer, but more importantly, the technology, and that's what they liked. So in this example, it was the technology pitch. We were a very small startup, about 15 people, right? So it's not very expensive for them to acquire us. Plus we give them edge, right? So it was not a big financial acquisition for Wootric, but a lot of our competitors has actually folded. They didn't even exist. So in that context, it was a good acquisition, but think about Google Apigee level or DataStax to IBM level, it was very small. Okay. It was very small.
But you got an exit. At least when
we got an exit, investors got their money back. Investors got their money. Nobody lost any money. Employees made some money, and buyer was happy.
Okay, that's actually good.
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't actually suddenly wake up one day and you get an email for like acquisition from big companies, right? You need to prepare yourself and the company to be ready for acquisition, and right.
Most of the time, it's like a dating game. You have to reach out to 10 people, and hopefully you'll find one or two that really like you, and then one of those. It takes time. InstaOps thing took about 6 months to find. Wootric took about 2 years to find, actually. So it depends. Yes.
त्यो हामीले यतिकै जेनरली सोच्दाखेरि चाहिँ हुन्छ नि, राम्रो प्रडक्ट बनायो भने चाहिँ समवन विल कम एन्ड अक्वायर अस भन्ने टाइपको भइरहेको हुन्छ नि त धेरैजना मान्छेहरूको त्यो थट प्रोसेस चाहिँ। तर यु एक्चुअली निड टु पुट इफोर्ट इन फाइन्डिङ द बायर्स पनि, होइन?
Not only राम्रो product, product has to fill the gap that the other bigger company has. तपाईं जतिसुकै राम्रो भए पनि if they have something competing equally better, then they are not going to buy.
Right.
Unless it's a competitive angle, त्यो चाहिँ अर्को केस हुन्छ. Most of the time, there has to something you have to do for the buying company. Either you close the technology gap, or you are able to expedite the market launch, as I said in the beginning. I know. Just took something you have to fill. It's never about purely about product actually.
Mhm.
It's ultimately it's about business most of
Oh.
the time.
सो कोड क्वालिटी चाहिँ अलिक पछाडि नै आउँछ जस्तो छ लिस्टमा होइन वाट इज इम्पोर्टेन्ट भन्ने कुरामा
Initial ko lagi code quality आउँदैन. Initial ko lagi it has to be what is the business problem you are trying to solve, होइन? Code quality crappy पनि छ भने, but if you're solving that problem, who cares? Facebook सुरुमा आउँदाखेरि it was PHP and MySQL.
Oh.
So I'm sure they had a very, very bad code quality, right? तर अहिले कहाँ छ होइन? So it depends on what is the problem you're trying to solve.
डे वानदेखि नै म मेरो कोड पलिस गरेर बनाएर राख्छु भनेर चाहिँ सोचिराख्नु पऱ्यो नि यु जस्ट लाइक सल्भ द प्रब्लम एन्ड देन यु क्यान फोकस अन मेन्टेनिङ the code quality later on, right?
Yeah. You want to do the best you can, but you don't want to spend 5 weeks just polishing your code.
Right,
then you have lost 5 weeks.
Yeah. That makes sense. Okay, so just quick हाम्रो जो अहिले अटेन्ड गरेर आउनु भएको छ केही क्वेसन्सहरू छ भने चाहिँ हाम्रो च्याटमा ड्रप गरिदिइराख्नु भयो हुन्छ तपाईँहरूको ब्याकग्राउन्ड सहित क्वेसन ड्रप गरिदिनु भयो भने चाहिँ इट विल बी इजियर फर प्रभात दाई टु आन्सर द्याट है अनि हामी एन्डतिर चाहिँ तपाईँहरूको क्वेसन्सहरू पनि लिन्छौँ तर त्योभन्दा अगाडि चाहिँ थोरै अब भनौँ न नेपालको कन्टेक्स्टको पनि कुरा गरौँ होइन किनभने यो कन्भर्सेसनको मेन गोल भनेको चाहिँ वी वान्ट टु लर्न थिङ्स फ्रम पिपल लाइक यु अनि हुन्छ नि नेपालको इकोसिस्टमलाई पनि केही चिज दिउँ अनि ग्रो गराउँ भन्ने छ होइन सो नेपालमा पनि डिफ्रेन्ट स्टार्टअप्सहरू छ प्रडक्टहरू छ कम्पनीजहरू छ तर त्यो जुन स्केल जुन लेभल बाहिरको कम्पनीजहरूमा देख्छौँ त्यो हामीमा एकदमै लिमिटेड छ होइन सो अब हजुरले कतिको फलो गरिराख्नु भएको छ नेपालको इकोसिस्टमलाई बट तपाईँको के अब्जर्भेसन छ जहाँ चाहिँ हुन्छ नि नेपालको स्टार्टअप्स अर एज अ होल इकोसिस्टम नै अथवा त्यो प्रडक्ट अथवा हुन्छ नि त्यो थिङ्किङ प्रोसेसमा के कुरा चाहिँ ग्याप जस्तो देख्नुहुन्छ जसले गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ नेपालको हुन्छ नि वी डोन्ट हियर द्याट होइन जस्तो नेपालको कुनै कम्पनी चाहिँ ल $100 million चाहिँ एक्वायर भयो भन्ने न्युज त हामी सुन्न पाइरहेको हुँदैनौँ नि त सो के ग्याप छ जस्तो लाग्छ दाइ नेपालको कन्टेक्स्टमा चाहिँ
So म नेपालको फलो गर्छु तर I'm not very close to the ecosystem. For example, I know Khalti. I have some friends there. I know them very well. So I am very happy for their success. And then there are other startups that are US based. So they have a very strong presence in Nepal, just like Leapfrog and all those people. I know that I know. So, but to answer your question, I think Nepal my startup obviously there is another startup गरिरहेछ but you have to set your expectation in the context of Nepal. What is happening in USA जुन startup success सुन्नुहुन्छ हैन that doesn't happen in many other countries. यो चाहिँ very specific to US capital market US को size को हैन त्यसैले नेपालको कुनै startup ले गर्यो भने and if that's the expectation they have then they are going to get very disappointed हैन they're not going to scale just a potential market size चाहिँ US को धेरै lot bigger हैन नेपालको छैन so they are so as a Nepali startup what are you going to do either you are going to build a product that only caters to Nepal and population so that means your market side is capped by what is possible in Nepal I know nothing wrong with it that means you can choose your investment and how much you invest with respect to how much return you expect in Nepal and the ambition right and you're gonna make sure that you are not like too ambitious like you're just going to have a multi-million dollar acquisition like what they happen in United States. Like I think Khalti was like that. I'm sure there are other startups like they can do. But let's say if you really want to go bigger than that, you know? I think I do not know what is the right approach to do that would be किनभने हाम्रो नेपाली गभर्नमेन्टले चाहिँ they have not made it easier to invest money outside बाहिरको पैसा नेपालमा ल्याउनु like I think it's getting easier but from what I know is easing up, right? So it makes it like, for example, when Khalti had started, they were figuring out how to pay the cloud hosting bill on Amazon and stuff like that, and on a bankage haina, you know. So I'm sure things are getting better. But main चाहिँ मैले के भन्नु भने building a product that is going to be applicable in a broader market is a little bit difficult. India ma pani chaina. If you think of the bigger company like Flipkart and all this stuff, they're not catering to population outside India. They're very much in India, you know. So मेरो विचारमा I'm not an expert in Nepali startup ecosystem, so please do not. But my guidance would be that you have to go to two more. Either you build a product, then make sure that you are investing in line with the return you're going to expect by Nepali market size. You know? Two. Second time, if you're investing in technology, then you want to do cutting edge stuff, just of AI, you know? A lot of enterprises, they don't have AI talent pool. You know, so if you're making your presence felt by, you know, like building something, writing about the technology you're building, finding the connections, then you can land into a very lucrative projects that you can build from Nepal. Those are the two approaches, I think. The acquisition of the Nepal में त्यस्तो भएको छैन अहिले पनि. It's very, you don't hear that much actually. Yeah.
Okay.
I know I didn't give a very clear answer to that, but मेरो विचारमा चाहिँ you have to set your ambitions according to the market size. That's what I'm trying to say.
What do you think भन्नाले नेपालमा बसेर चाहिँ म ग्लोबल प्रडक्ट बनाउँछु भनेर कसैले सोचिरहेछ भने चाहिँ हैन, should they try it, or like are there any, like what do you think they should उनीहरुको माइन्डसेट कस्तो हुनुपर्छ त, if someone is like हुन्छ नि इज सोचिरहेछ भनौँ न नेपालमै बस्छु तर ग्लोबल प्रडक्ट बनाउँछु एन्ड देन आई क्रिएट a big company out of Nepal भन्ने तरिकाले, like it's not a service company but it's a product company that
it's a product company हजुर. मैले के भन्छु भने think globally but act locally, जस्तो माइन्डसेट हुनु पर्यो के. हामीले पनि जस्तो InstaOps बनायो नि, we are not thinking we're gonna Facebook will be our customer. We're thinking very small in the beginning, you know. So of course you want to have ambition to think globally, but you need to have a path for like first 10 customers. And wherever they happen, if they happen to be in Nepal, they have to be in India, they happen to be in Thailand, conquer those markets and then build the foundation to dream bigger. And don't go with the big ambition right from there. You have to earn your way up there. That's what I would say.
Okay.
So define the first 10 customers, build a product for those, and then build on that success to go to bigger.
Right.
Bigger.
That totally makes sense. Yeah. हुन्छ दाइ. सो मेरो साइडबाट चाहिँ आई हेभ अ लास्ट क्वेसन टु आस्क यु. जस्तो नेपालमा पनि वी हेभ अ लट अफ ट्यालेन्ट्स होइन, टेकको सेक्टरमा चाहिँ नेपालको लागि मात्रै नभएर ग्लोबल कम्पनीजहरूको लागि पनि नेपालमै बसेर पनि धेरैजनाले काम त गरिरहेको छ होइन. तर जस्तो इफ यु वर टु हायर अ सफ्टवेयर इन्जिनियर फ्रम काठमाडौँ फर योर इन्जिनियरिङ टिम इन आइबिएम होइन, हजुरले चाहिँ के कुरा हेर्नुहुन्छ टप 3 क्वालिटिज इन द्याट सफ्टवेयर इन्जिनियर अबको टाइममा चाहिँ, लाइक मेबी इट वाज डिफरेन्ट इन द पास्ट होइन, तर अबको टाइम एन्ड फर द नेक्स्ट 5 years वाट इज द मोस्ट इम्पोर्टेन्ट 3 क्वालिटिज द्याट यु वुड लुक इन दोज सफ्टवेयर इन्जिनियर्स?
So एउटा generic the answer हुँदैन. It depends on the which product, which team are you hiring engineers for the mature product or very early startup product. Which nuances matters, but in general, fundamental to strong हुनु पर्यो. You have to know computer science, you have to understand data structure, you have to understand algorithm, and you need to be able to write code. AI भए पनि you need to be able to understand the right code. त्यो चाहिँ त basic छैन. So any interview process will, if you do not have that, then you don't even have a seat at the table. So fundamental computer science knowledge saying strong हुनु पर्यो. That's the first thing I interview for when I'm doing that. I know. But then regardless of how good attitude you have, if your fundamentals are not strong,
Right,
then
right.
you're not gonna be useful to me. So first त्यो भयो. Second चाहिँ के भयो भने then attitude really really matters. त्यो चाहिँ भने मेरो चाहिँ fundamental के छ भने this is my motto in life as well, to have a very strong sense of ownership. तपाईं चाहिँ कुनै पनि problem, like, can you show that you have a sense of ownership, that when a problem comes, you are going to stick with the problem until it's solved, and whatever comes way, whether you know the technology or not, whether you know that that domain or not, you are going to figure it out yourself, or you're going to find someone whom you can work with to figure out a problem. To just sense of ownership is if the attitude is like मेरो काम चाहिँ यति हो, this I'm going to stick in my lane and I don't care about anything else, then I do not hire those people.
Right.
And I have my way of assessing, like, are you going to be able to, do you have the grit, do you have grit to stick with a problem? So that ownership mindset I look for quite a bit actually. So fundamental technology चाहिँ हुनु पर्यो, ownership mindset हुनु पर्यो, and third one is being able to collaborate, right? So like ego हुनु पनि भएन. You need to be very easy to work with, and people should feel very comfortable working with you. Those are the three things I look for.
ओके ओके हो पक्कै पनि जस्तो अब यो एटिट्युडकै कुरा पनि सेन्स अफ ओनरसिप होइन, यो जस्तो जसलाई चाहिँ एकदमै हुन्छ नि कोही सिनियर इन्जिनियर हो भनेर आफू भनिराख्दाखेरि चाहिँ बट जहिले पनि उसलाई बेबिसिट नै गरिराख्नु परिरहेको छ केही चिज हुन्छ नि पुस नै गरिराख्नु परिरहेको छ भने त द्याट एक्चुली डोन्ट मेक सेन्स एउटाको टिममा हुनको लागि होइन, किनभने जसलाई चाहिँ जे रोलको लागि लिएको छ उसले चाहिँ एक्सट्रिम ओनरसिप लिन सक्यो भने मात्रै टिम पनि एज अ टिम पनि ग्रो हुन्छ र राइट कल्चर पनि सेट हुन्छ फर द न्यू वान्स हु कम इन्टु द टिम होइन, द्याट टोटली मेक सेन्स हो.
Ego चाहिँ you have to leave ego outside. मेरो टिममा चाहिँ मेरो टिममा the person I manage, they have 15 years more experience, they're a lot more smarter than me, but when you are working in my team, you have to work the way I want the team to run. There's no ego, there's no clash, and that त्यो चाहिँ हुन्छ. Regardless of how smart you are, I have done it. I've fired engineers if they are not getting, if they are not part of the team and they're not helping execute. I don't care how smart you are. You know, this is not the place to show. This is the place to get things done, as opposed to show you how good you are. Yeah.
Okay. यो लगभग मेरो पार्टको क्वेसन्सहरू चाहिँ दाइलाई सकियो होइन. लास्ट थिङ चाहिँ अब जस्तो हाम्रो अडियन्समै पनि जस्तो यो चाहिँ हामीले अहिले एज वेबिनार जस्तो गरे पनि वी विल पब्लिस दिस एज अ पोडकास्ट होइन. सो देयर विल बी अ लट अफ अडियन्सेस पछि पनि. सो कसैलाई चाहिँ जस्तो नेपालमा पनि कसैले प्रडक्ट बनाइरहेछ, स्टार्टअप गरिरहेछ, दे माइट बी स्टक इन समथिङ एन्ड दे माइट वान्ट टु कनेक्ट विथ यु टु गेट सम इन्साइट्स अर हेल्प होइन. त्यो भयो भने चाहिँ कसरी रिच आउट गर्न सक्छन् कसैले नेपालबाट हजुरलाई?
बेस्ट वे विल बी लिङ्क्डइन. लिङ्क्डइन चाहिँ म त्यति त LinkedIn चाहिँ धेरै कनेक्सनहरू आइरहेको हुन्छ, तर I still try to catch up on all the connection requests, and if you send me a message, then I will respond in, not on the same day, at least in next 2 to 3 days. I try to respond. त्यो चाहिँ हो. And you can always send me an email. That's my first name, Prabhat143@gmail.com. That will be the way. I'm always there to help my Nepali colleagues.
हुन्छ. म हजुरको यो दुईवटा च्यानल्सहरू चाहिँ पछि पब्लिस गर्दाखेरि पनि डिस्क्रिप्सनमा मेन्सन गरिदिन्छु होइन. ओके, सो दिज आर अल फ्रम माई साइड. आई थिङ्क वी सुड टेक फ्यु क्वेसन्स फ्रम द अडियन्स. यहाँ च्याटमा आएको रहेछ, सो आई विल गो थ्रु देम वान बाई वान. There will be a lot of problems while solving the main one. How do you prioritize? उमेश पाण्डेजीले भन्नुभएको छ यो चाहिँ.
That is always there, regardless of whether you are Google or you are two people a startup. You will always have 5 different things you want to do. But you kind of know which one is most important, and you don't want anything else to get in that way. किनभने तपाईंको if you have 5 different things to do, and if you're spreading yourself too thin, then next month you still have 5 things to do. But if you have 5 things to do and you focus on one thing, then next month you have 4 things to do.
Yeah.
So very hard, like prioritization is hard. You fool yourself that you have a capacity to do many things, but normally you don't. That's why focusing on one or two is always the better way to execute.
Okay. How was your team composition in terms of number and capacity? यो चाहिँ अब like multiple experiences-हरु छ हैन? I'm not sure which one he's referring to. तर maybe you can give us an insight on the scale of teams you have worked with.
Yeah. So InstaOps, my friend and I started, and then we had hired 3-4 other engineers that we were paying out of our pocket until we raise money, kind of thing. So I look for, it's not about number of people, it's more about the skills. So I was more of a backend developer. I did not do no front end. So I hired people who were really good front end developer. So in the beginning, now obviously when DataStax got acquired by IBM, the engineering side चाहिँ 200 जना भन्दा बढी माथि, मेरो टिममा 200 जना भन्दा बढी माथि छु. They have different background and everything. So scale changes, but in the context of a startup, I would say it's not, don't optimize for the headcount, optimize for the skill set. And तपाईको चाहिँ टिममा चाहिँ थोरै मान्छे भए पनि they need to complement each other. You do not want all the people with the same skill set. So मेरो केसमा के थियो भने I was the backend developer. I didn't know much about cloud at that time in time, but my co-founder, because he worked on Amazon AWS, he knew a lot about cloud. So we were both complemented each other, and we learned the mobile side ourselves together. So it's a combination of skill set than number of people actually.
Okay. अर्को चाहिँ विशाल सिग्दलबाट छ. Sir has worked to solve many problems working on API, backend, UI, algorithms, VectorDB, cloud, NoSQL. How do you orient yourself to these various fields? In such scale, you could focus on varied technology. How did you orient yourself to all these technology as a senior level engineer?
Yeah, that's a very good question. But there are always like I still find there are 10 other things I should be learning that I do not know. So it becomes overwhelming. So what I do is that I lead with code. I learn with code. I know तपाईले चाहिँ धेरै मान्छेले blog पढ्छ, write up, they keep reading articles and articles and articles, but they're very lazy about actually writing a piece of code and see how it works. अब नयाँ कुरामा ल्याउँ न, just AI मा चाहिँ MCP gatewayहरुको कुराहरु आइरहेछ, right? I can tell you that a lot of people are simply reading what is MCP. The best way to learn is build a very small MCP gateway powered application. You will learn really fast actually, right? So whenever I just said I started with InstaOps Java backend, I didn't know about cloud. So the way to learn from me cloud was actually write a very simple application and deploy on Amazon Cloud. That's the best way to learn as opposed to reading 10 different blogs. So same thing applies to all the technology. And we are blessed to be an engineer. We can code, and we should use that skills to basically write code and build application to really get understanding of technology.
Vishal, I hope you got your answer. Okay, so there is another one from Ashish Nayak. My background. Hello, Prabhat sir. I hope you're doing well. I hope you remember me. It's me, Ashish Nayak from Atlanta, CS major at Georgia State University. Recently, I reached out to you regarding IBM internship. My question is that advice you would give to a Nepali student who is doing undergrad at US universities. How should you how should go after to start a startup in USA?
Yeah. So Ashish, I acknowledge your email. I think IBM अहिले चाहिँ immigration को situation they are not hiring interns that need visa sponsoring or anybody on a student visa. That's the IBM policy, so I cannot do much about that right now. That's why I was not able to help, even though I wanted to help you. On the question about how to do a startup, uh, अहिले चाहिँ at real time is very difficult for any student or anybody with the visa sponsorship, just because of the Trump administration policy is not very conducive for immigrant students to do something. But in a normal situation, I would say the way to do a startup is to do not want to start your own right in the beginning. You work for a startup, understand what it takes to build a product in a very fast moving space, gain some experience. Hopefully at that time you would have a like green card or some more stable visa, and then you do the startup. In the context of United States, that's what I would say, because the visa status matters a lot. If that is not sorted out, then there'll be a lot of stress in the system.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So there's another one from Umesh Pandey. Umesh from Toronto. How do you see the importance of project management in product industry?
Project management अहिले चाहिँ still relevant छ, तर I think तपाईँ pure project management manager हुनु भएको छ भने I never found that very exciting area. किनभने project manager चाहिँ एकदमै नभई नहुने role होइन के. Like if you're a good engineering manager, then you can do the project manager for yourself. Especially in the startup context, nobody hires a project manager. Project manager bigger company मा मात्रै हुन्छ. अनि so you do need project managers, but once you have to go at the bigger scale, the smaller scale मा चाहिँ startup scale मा engineering manager, product manager ले चाहिँ उनीहरूले नै गर्न सक्छ हैन. And खास गरेर अब with AI coming, you can automate a lot of workflows actually automatically. Automate गर्न सकिन्छ. त्यही भएर चाहिँ project manager as a trade, I think it's gonna get less and less useful. That's my personal opinion. I could be wrong.
But it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is the last one for today. Apart from product development, how do you handle the marketing side to get your business acquired? This is from Rajiv Bista.
Yeah. So as I said earlier, if you think about acquisition, the time it takes from that point to get acquired, it could go from 6 months to like multiple years. And then you have to say you are going to have a set of hypotheses on all the potential acquirer, and you have to understand their business, their messaging very closely, and then you want to target their leadership, their engineers to pitch, so that you want to be noticeable to them. For example, Wootric चाहिँ हाम्रो startup गर्दाको when we thought of we should sell, हाम्रो जुन ठुला buyerहरु थिए, I started personally reaching out to the CEO, the CTOs of those companies to make that relationship, make that introduction, and tell them about what we're doing, either potential partnership angle, and then you start building those conversations. So it's mostly about building that network of people in your space, and then figuring out the right moment to like for a business transaction to happen. So it's a very long process. It requires lots of patience and time. The way you do it is not by simply writing blog and content. Those things are important, but the personal connections matter a lot when it comes to acquisition. And the way I did it is that if you have a mutual connections to CTO of some other company, then I will ask that person to introduce me. Then I'll get on a phone call or Zoom call with them to explain what they're doing. Slowly build that relationship. That's why it takes 6 months to 2 years because you have to earn their trust. They have to trust you. They have to understand what kind of skills you and team have, and then they will acquire you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, guys. So I think हामी एन्डतिर आइपुगेको छौँ होइन. सो वी हेभ एड्रेस्ड अल द क्वेसन्स एज वेल. मेरो लागि चाहिँ आजको एकदमै हुन्छ नि इफ एउटा टेक अवे भन्न पऱ्यो भने चाहिँ होइन आई अलवेज युज टु थिङ्क कुनै पनि कुरा बनाउँदाखेरि चाहिँ होइन इज इट वर्थ सल्भिङ भन्ने तरिकाले मात्रै सोच्थेँ क्या बट एम आई द राइट पर्सन टु सल्भ इट भन्ने कुरामा चाहिँ म कहिले पनि सोचेर आउँदिनँ थिएँ कि खासमा अनि त्यो दाइले त्यो भनेको कुरामा चाहिँ मेरो त्यो हुन्छ नि एकदम इम्पोर्टेन्ट टेक अवे जस्तो भयो क्या मेरो लागि चाहिँ
एकदमै सही थियो यहाँ
हजुर
पनि जस्तो वाइ कम्बिनेटर सुन्नुभयो होला जुन वाइ
हजुर
कम्बिनेटरको जुन स्टार्टअप गर्छ
उम्,
सबै बिग बिसी लाइक दे लाइक वाइ आर यु द राइट पर्सन कन्भिन्स मी
राइट
किनभने टेक्नोलोजी चेन्ज हुन्छ एआईले गर्दाखेरि धेरै कुरा चेन्ज गर्छ
हो
बट इफ यु रियली अन्डरस्ट्यान्ड द प्रब्लम
हो
देन यु गोना युज एआई टु सल्भ द प्रब्लम
उम्,
होइन before AI, you're going to do that. But if you have to understand the problem
उम्,
and you have to convince the investors that you are the right person.
हो
होइन
उम्,
त्यो चाहिँ मिल्यो भने देन इट बिकम्स इजी द्याट मिन्स यु रियली किनभने यो एउटा प्रब्लम आयो इफ यु थिङ्क यु क्यान डु इट लाइक 15 अदर पिपल थिङ्क दे क्यान डु इट एज
राइट
वेल
हो
what sets you apart
या
is the
या
hard part.
एन्ड भनौँ न एडभर्सिटीमा पनि तिमी चाहिँ लङ टर्म यसलाई लिएर जान्छौ भन्ने अस्युरेन्स के छ भन्ने कुरामा चाहिँ तिमीसँग कुनै न कुनै कनेक्सन त हुन पऱ्यो नि त भन्ने कुरा पनि आयो नि त यसबाट होइन
हजुर
राइट राइट
हजुर
हजुर हुन्छ दाइ सो वी टक्ड अबाउट अ लट अफ थिङ्स वी टक्ड अबाउट द प्रडक्ट इन्जिनियरिङ स्केलेबिलिटी एक्विजिसन्स एन्ड लाइक हुन्छ नि अ लट अफ थिङ्स सो फाइनल्ली जस्तो नेपालमा भएको स्टुडेन्ट्स एन्ड टेक प्रोफेसनल्सहरू जो चाहिँ वाज जस्ट स्टार्टिङ आउट हजुरको इफ यु ह्याड टु गिभ वान पिस अफ एडभाइस टु देम मेबी सेपरेटली स्टुडेन्ट्स एन्ड प्रोफेसनल्सको लागि चाहिँ के दिनुहुन्छ दाइ एडभाइस
One thing I would say, don't be lazy, lead with code. Try to very be good at your craft, होइन जतिसुकै पनि तपाईँ पढ्न सक्नुहुन्छ but if you can show and lead with code that you can build some product quickly with quality, then all of these things will ultimately come to help you in your career. Do not compromise, do not take a shortcut on fundamentals of computer science. That's what I would say. अहिले पनि I lead. In my team, I have people who have done PhDs on particular domain, and for me to understand what they're saying, I always go back to my strong math and computer science background. AI, I use AI a lot and everything, but what really gets me going is that fundamental understanding of data structures, algorithms, and my ability to experiment with code. त्यो चाहिँ, so do not be lazy. And don't be shy away from experimenting with code. You never know what skills inside that you learn today will be valuable down the road.
सो इट्स स्टिल रिलेभेन्ट होइन किनभने अहिले चाहिँ अब भनौँ न एआई भाइब कोडिङले गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ पिपल थिङ्क द्याट बेसिक्स फन्डामेन्टल्स आर नट इम्पोर्टेन्ट एनिमोर यु क्यान जस्ट भाइब कोड समथिङ इन्टु अ प्रडक्ट एन्ड देन यु क्यान लाइक बिल्ड अ कम्पनी आउट अफ इट भन्ने टाइपको एउटा त्यो सोचाइ पनि छ होइन बट इट्स स्टिल रिलेभेन्ट एन्ड भेरी इम्पोर्टेन्ट अबको टाइममा त झन् दाइ
Yeah, okay. Totally.
Yeah, thank you very much, दाइ आई होप सबैजनाले केही न केही आज सिक्नुभयो होला मैले चाहिँ एकदमै धेरै कुराहरू सिकेँ आई गट अ लट अफ इन्साइट्स थ्याङ्क यू सो मच हामी फेरि यो सेसन्सहरू गर्नुपर्छ होपफुल्ली वेन यु कम टु नेपाल वी सुड डु अ लङ्गर एपिसोड मेबी फिजिकली
in person.
in person.
Thank you very. Hopefully, it was insightful. Any question, follow up, please send me email. Sanjay ji will send the email. We'll post it. I'll happily respond. It's an honor to work with my colleagues in Nepal, and anything I can do to help you all, I am more than willing to help.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.